What's going on, and welcome to the Solo Shot. My name is Tom Vecchio. We have a 12-game MLB slate tonight. It starts at 7:05. As always, this is one of the mini shows on the FanDuel Podcast Network. You can find that anywhere, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Make sure to give it a like, a follow, or subscribe. Leave a review. That is greatly appreciated. Also going to be found on the FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV+. You can also follow me on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. Before we hop into things, get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG if you're in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat if you're in Connecticut. Call 1-800-9-WITH-IT if you are in Indiana. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit KS Gambling Help in Kansas. Call 1-877-770-STOP if you're in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org if you're in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY if you're in New York. NFL Sunday Ticket offer ends on 9/18/23. No refunds, terms, and embargoes apply. $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket, not YouTube TV. YouTube TV base platform required to watch YouTube TV. Redemption requires a Google account and current form of payment. Commercial use excluded. All right, let's jump into tonight's 12-game MLB slate. Again, lock is set for 7:05. Pretty clear when it comes to the weather. Yesterday, we had the Angels. Their home game was postponed due to the after effects of the storm that hit Southern California. They are looking good to go for today. We have a little bit of wind for the Yankees. They are at home. A little bit of wind blowing out towards right field. They are hosting the Nationals, so slight bump to the hitters there. We have some wind blowing in for the Guardians. They are at home hosting the Dodgers, so a slight bump to the pitchers there, but we will still be looking at a few hitting options from the Dodgers. And then for the Braves, super hot in Atlanta tonight. Always the potential for some runs there. No real rain issues across the board, which is good to see. Let's jump into the pitching options for tonight. Again, a larger 12-game slate compared to what we have. I spoke about Lucas Giolito yesterday for the Angels at home going up against the Cincinnati Reds. I think he's a good option again today. You know, he has that strikeout potential. The Reds, they have some power in their lineup, but they're not overly consistent. They also, they have some strikeouts. And while Giolito can struggle with walks at times, I think he's a good option today. Yesterday I was going to be a little bit higher on him, just given the fact that it was an 8-game slate and we weren't dealing with a ton of options across the board. Tonight's a little bit different because we have 12 games and there's just a variety of options that we can be going to outside him. So Giolito back on tonight's slate. I think he's good tonight. Definitely not as high as I was on him last night. Again, just given the size of the slate. So starting off for tonight, Zach Gallen leads the way at 10.5. Blake Snell is 10.3. Bailey Ober at 10,000. Yusei Kikuchi is at 9.8. Justin Verlander, 9.6. Jesus Luzardo at 9.4. John Gray, 9.2. Lucas Giolito at 9.1. And Bobby Miller at 9,000. Round out the options that are 9K and above. Certainly looking to Blake Snell as one of the top overall options. And it's basically a coin flip between Zach Gallen at 10.5 and Blake Snell at 10.3. And it's pretty easy to say that Snell has a bit of an easier matchup going up against Miami compared to Zach Gallen going up against the Texas Rangers, and I know they're on a 4 or 5 game losing streak, the Rangers this is, but they still have a lot of power in that lineup, and they can break out at any time. So while Snell looks like the safer option among the two, it does present Gallen as a pretty nice pivot away if we're thinking that Snell's going to be pretty chalky. So when it comes to Snell, super solid 31% strikeout rate this season. Very, very strong from him. He has a 13.7% walk rate, which is obviously very high. It's not what we like to see. It's kind of been his thing throughout his career. He doesn't always have the walks under control, 8, 9, 10% over the course of, year by year over his career, but he has an awesome 14.7% swinging strike rate. He has a 4.15 Sierra skill interactive ERA, mainly a medium contact ground ball pitcher with a 52% medium contact rate this year, along with a 43% ground ball rate, all equates to him allowing a 0.93 home runs per 9. Now, the matchup against Miami is a bit of a mixed bag because we see them coming in with a 20.5% strikeout rate versus lefties, which is actually the 6th lowest in the league. Traditionally, over the past however many years, the Marlins were a team that we'd always be looking for when it comes to, strikeout upside for opposing pitchers, and they're actually somewhat disciplined or really disciplined at the plate this year. And overall, they have a 111 WRC plus versus lefties, which is the 10th best in the league. They have a 143 team ISO versus lefties, though, which is 24th. And then we flip to the other side. They have a 348 BABIP, which is batting average of balls in play. That's number 1 in the league. So what do we have here? We have a team that doesn't necessarily strike out a lot. They have a clear lack of power at 24th in the league with a 143 team ISO, but they get a lot of balls in play. So if Snell can limit those balls, which I think he can be able to do with that ground ball rate and medium contact rate, like Miami isn't a team that's going to slug their way, to a lot of runs. Jorge Soler sure has a ton of power at the top of their lineup, but they're an offense that's with this 348 BABIP, which is built around single, double, single, and that can obviously be very dangerous if Snell is, dealing with this 13.7% walk rate. But overall, I'm not overly concerned about the Miami offense in terms of a power upside thing. And Snell should be able to keep them under control with really the consistency that he's brought for, I would say, 75% of the season. I know he started off slow, but really it's been a very, very strong year for Snell. So certainly like keeping him up at the top. Bailey Ober is next. And, the matchup that he has against the Brewers is absolutely great. Now, there's some concerns when it comes to Bailey Ober. And, right from the jump, a 24.6% strikeout rate is obviously not as high as Blake Snell, but he's got a 4.8% walk rate, which is great, 13.5% swinging strike rate, and a 3.9 for Sierra. The issue with Ober is that he has a 49.7% fly ball rate this year, which has turned into 1.27 home runs per 9 allowed. So that's where a little bit of danger comes. He still has a 52% medium contact rate. Now, I'm liking Bailey Ober tonight because of this matchup versus the Brewers. They come in with an 87 WRC plus versus righties, which is 27th in the league, and a 140 team ISO versus righties, which is 28th in the league. So this is a clear spot for Bailey Ober due to the lack of power from the Brewers lineup overall. We also see the Brewers coming in with a 23.2% strikeout rate versus righties, which is the 10th worst in the league. So it's pretty clear that the Brewers don't have a ton of power in their lineup. They're, not consistent. They also strike out at a decent amount, but Bailey Ober just individually doesn't have as much strikeout upside as someone like Blake Snell does. So, we're kind of splitting hairs here between some of these top pitchers, but Bailey Ober is certainly going to be making the list tonight because of basically the lackluster power that the Brewers, or the lack of power, the lack of anything that really the Brewers offense brings to the table. I also think we should be considering Bobby Miller tonight. As I mentioned, the Guardians are at home. There's a bit of wind blowing in at Cleveland, and it really does put the pitchers, or I would say pitchers, theoretically in a good spot. Now, Noah Syndergaard is on the other side of Cleveland, and we're certainly going to be taking a look at the Dodgers just because Syndergaard has been struggling. But Bobby Miller's 9K tonight, and yes, his strikeout upside is not the same as Snell, is not the same as Ober. It's not going to be the same as Zach Gallen. But given the offense that Cleveland brings to the table, a lot of this is shaping up for Bobby Miller to be a really solid play at 9K, especially when we have some really powerful offenses on the slate that we want to be stacking. So when it comes to Bobby Miller, 22.4% strikeout rate is right around the league average. Again, it's not as high as Ober. It's nowhere near Snell. Snell's almost 10% higher. He has a 7.1% walk rate. He's allowing 0.72 home runs per 9, which is awesome. He has a 4.16 Sierra, 49% medium contact rate, and 46.5% ground ball rate. It's all great from Miller. That strikeout rate, is not going to be super high. He's never going to be pushing to, 10 plus strikeouts. Also combined with the fact that Cleveland, they come in with an 18.5% strikeout rate versus righties, which is the lowest in the league. Cleveland, super disciplined at the plate. And they've really never been a matchup that we've looked to opposing pitchers for like massive strikeout upside. So realistically, what we're hoping when it comes to Bobby Miller, it was $9K, which obviously quite a bit less expensive compared to Snell or Gallen, one of these pitchers up at the top. We're hoping for 6 innings from Bobby Miller. We want those points from the QS, maybe the points from the win, which I think is certainly in play tonight. We're not banking on the points. That's not something we want to be accounting for on a daily basis. But the offense that the Dodgers have going up against Noah Syndergaard certainly puts them in a good spot to pile up the runs. So Cleveland, 18.5% strikeout rate, the lowest in the league versus righties. They're super disciplined at the plate. But outside of that, they have a 95 WRC plus, which is 19th in the league, a 131 team ISO, which is 30th in the league. They have a 26.7% hard contact rate, which is 30th in the league, and they have a 34.1% fly ball rate, which is 27th in the league. So this is an offense that does not bring really any power to the table. Yes, they don't strike out, and congrats to them for not striking out. I guess that does limit some of the fantasy upside when it comes to someone like Bobby Miller, but this offense is something that we want to be focusing in on a nightly basis, or, attacking on a nightly basis, just because there's a lack of power on, from their side of the plate. So Bobby Miller, 9K, really, really interesting tonight. Of course, we want to be focusing in on Snell up at the top as a clear top option, no pun intended. Bailey Ober, Zach Gallen, all of these players are going to be super solid tonight with their given matchups and their strikeout potential. I'm going to be putting Snell number 1. I would put Bailey Ober number 2, Gallen 3, just given the matchup versus the Rangers, just because their offense has been super solid. And then this is where you would drop down to Bobby Miller. Yes, can you be looking to Justin Verlander tonight? Didn't specifically mention him. He's 9.6. That's fine. Yusei Kikuchi has been super solid lately for the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't love this matchup versus Baltimore. I don't think many people will love this matchup going up against Baltimore, given the offensive potential that they have. But certainly an option if you are looking for extra pitcher when you're multi-entering when it comes to GPPs. You're running a number of lineups. That's where you would look to some of these other options outside of Snell, outside of Gallen. So pitching on tonight's slate, I think we really want to be sticking up at the top. There's not too many options further down that you really want to be considering too much overall. Now, when it comes to hitting stacks on tonight's slate, this is where things get really interesting. So right from the jump, there's no Coors Field on tonight's slate. We have the Dodgers and we have the Braves on tonight's slate. The Dodgers and the Braves are two teams that I generally don't like to discuss too much because they're, kind of givens. We know what we're going to be getting from them. Yes, the Braves didn't put up, a lot of runs last night, but I'll be willing to run it right back with their stack due to the offensive upside that they have. I do think going to the Dodgers or, talking about the Dodgers a little bit is something that I do want to touch on tonight just because they are in a good spot. Noah Syndergaard obviously is struggling this year. He's not a big strikeout pitcher. Yes, he's not allowing a massive amount of fly balls this year. It's only at 38.2% and 37.5% ground ball rate. So it's about split. He's not a super heavy hard contact pitcher. It's only at 35.3%. But overall, he's not striking out hitters at a high clip really at all. It's at 14.3%, which is so low. His BABIP is at 311, which is above the league average, and he's allowing 2.11 home runs per 9. We also know that he's been known to be very susceptible when it comes to allowing stolen bases, which provides so much potential for opposing offenses. So I generally, again, don't like to talk about the Dodgers too much, but I will be willing to, mention them here, obviously, just because they have so much power up and down their lineup. Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Max Muncy, JD Martinez, James Outman's been solid. You name it. They have players up and down. I want to be going to them. And again, as I mentioned, there's a little bit of wind blowing in at Cleveland, which should be a boost for pitching. I'm not really worried about the Dodgers offense putting up runs against Noah Syndergaard. So I think we can be looking there. Again, the Braves, pretty much a given on tonight's slate. And I guess one of the other teams that could be a given would be the Seattle Mariners. It seems like they're going to be scoring 10 plus runs every single game. That's certainly on the table tonight. They scored 13 runs last night. I don't know if we're going to be seeing that exactly, but they're going up against Mike Clevinger tonight, a pitcher who's been pretty mediocre this year. He has some flashes of upside, but I got to say he continues to get lucky. He comes with a 19.7% strikeout rate, an 8.9% walk rate. He has a 1.05 home runs per 9 allowed. Now, when it gets interesting is when we look at his ERA, and I know ERA is not an indication that we use, but we want to compare that to his SIERA and his xFIP overall. So his ERA this season is at 3.26. We could make the case, or some people would make the case that that actually seems pretty solid. But his xFIP this season is at 5.37. And when we look to his SIERA, it's at 5.04. So this indicates that he's probably due for regression. He's allowing a ton of fly balls, and not many of them are going for home runs. He's allowing a 51% fly ball rate this year, yet he's allowing just 1.05 home runs per 9. So he's getting a little bit lucky. And I think he's getting lucky specifically when it comes to right-handed hitters. So his 1.05 home runs per 9 are his stats overall. And obviously the 51% fly ball rate is overall. But when we look to specifically versus righties, he's allowing a 43.4% fly ball rate and only 0.61 home runs per 9, which again is running pretty hot. A lot of these fly balls are not going for home runs. So he's due for some regression, and the power that we see from the Mariners in their lineup, this is a spot that I'm absolutely going to be willing to go night in and night out. They're putting up runs left and right. There's really no reason you shouldn't be wanting some exposure to them overall. And most importantly, they are very, very affordable outside of Julio Rodriguez. Now, Rodriguez is lighting the world on fire right now, and he comes in at 4,500, absolutely where he should be. But Rodriguez is the only hitter on the Seattle Mariners that is above 3K. That's right. He's 4,500. The next most expensive hitter on Seattle is Cal Raleigh at 2,900. So, yes, I want to get Julio Rodriguez in my lineups when I'm stacking the Mariners, but you can look to him, and even if you don't have the salary because you're paying up for Blake Snell, every other option is 3K or 2,900 and below for the Mariners. So it offers a whole lot of salary flexibility, roster flexibility when it comes to stacking Seattle. So yes, this is where I want to be looking to. Obviously, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, these are the players, Eugenio Suarez. These are the players that I really want to be getting into my lineup. You want to throw in a Ty France in there, that's certainly solid. JP Crawford recently came back. You could certainly look to him. There's a lot of options when it comes to Seattle. So liking what they bring to the table against Mike Clevinger, a pitcher that I'm going to continue to say is due for some regression. Also should mention Pittsburgh. I know they put up a ton of runs last night. They're going up against Adam Wainwright. I don't expect them to put up double-digit runs every single night, but Adam Wainwright, simply not a good pitcher, kind of along the same lines as Noah Syndergaard, where they're not striking out hitters. They're getting burnt by home runs. He has a super high BABIP. He's just allowing runners on base, et cetera, et cetera. And really, again, when it comes to Pittsburgh, they're not overly expensive. Brian Reynolds is 3,600. Andrew McCutchen is 3K. Brian Hayes is 3K. Like, it's pretty affordable when we want to be stacking Pittsburgh. So I'm not running to get the Pirates in my lineup, especially on a full slate when we have Houston, we have the Dodgers, we have the Braves. But again, if you need a bit of a secondary stack or a bit of salary relief here or there, Pittsburgh certainly makes the list tonight. And I want to say the same thing about the Washington Nationals. They are on the road. They're going up against Carlos Rodon from the New York Yankees, who has absolutely been atrocious this season. Again, it's a small sample size of only 27 innings, but 2.67 home runs per 9 is terrible. A 14.8% walk rate is horrible. 20.5% strikeout rate is below the league average. A 53.2% fly ball rate, 46.2% hard contact rate for Rodon this year. The list goes on and on for him. So yeah, I'm not, again, running to get Nationals hitters in my lineup, but I do, understand and can recognize the spot that they're in going up against Rodon and really just the Yankees pitching staff overall, which has not been good. So I certainly like, and again, it's the same thing with the Nationals. Lane Thomas is 3,400. CJ Abrams is 3K. Everyone else is below 3K. So no matter who you want to get into your lineup, it's going to be pretty affordable if you're looking for that secondary stack outside of the Braves or, the Dodgers, some super expensive team like that. All right, so let's move on to the dinger calls to close things out. The first one should be pretty obvious. Mentioned Seattle and Julio Rodriguez going up against Mike Clevinger. Again, Rodriguez is absolutely on fire. Clevenger, he's due for all this regression versus, specifically versus righties. He's due for regression overall, but specifically versus righties. Just the amount of home runs he's not allowing, given his fly ball rate, is staggering. With his home run to fly ball ratio so low. So I'll take Julio Rodriguez in this matchup going up against Mike Clevenger. And then it's going to be someone from the Washington Nationals, and that's Lane Thomas, the Lane train for them. Really solid splits for him versus left-handed pitching this season, coming in with a 250 ISO, which we absolutely love to see. And with the struggles that Rodon is having, I think this is a spot that we absolutely want to be attacking. Lane Thomas also comes in with a 165 WRC plus and a 419 WOBA. He's got the power. He's got the matchup. There's a little bit of wind blowing out towards right field at Yankee Stadium tonight. All of it shapes up for some power hitting options from the Nationals to be in a good spot. All right, so that does it for today's podcast. Jim Sonos will be back tomorrow. I will be back next Monday and Tuesday as we close out the MLB season, mixing things up a little bit, giving Jim a little more time as NFL is quickly approaching. As always, this is one of the mini shows on the FanDuel Podcast Network. You can find that anywhere, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. Make sure to give it a like, follow, or subscribe. Leave a review. That's greatly appreciated. You can find it on the FanDuel YouTube page. You can find it on FanDuel TV Plus. You can follow me on Twitter at Tom_Vecchio1. And until next time, good luck in your contests.